everybody. Welcome to the Going Analog podcast, the show where board game industry guests bring their topics and games to discuss. I'm your host, Christina, and you, our listeners, have probably hosted plenty of game days or game nights. And did you ever wonder about hosting a whole gaming convention? Well, so did our guest today. And this year was the first year of a local Southern California gaming convention called LFG Con, a 3-day gaming extravaganza in Burbank. So to talk about his experience as one of the 3 co-founders of LFG Con, we have Dustin, Dustin Staats to join us today.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show, Christina and Shu. I was just reminiscing because I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. I realized I started listening to you guys a little bit when you first came out with your show. Awesome. Yeah, because I was going back. It's like, did I listen to the show back in Taiwan? And I actually did listen to you guys when I was really into podcasts and board game podcasts.
Was this when Shu was still the host, or was I already the host?
I think it was Shu. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
This is why he dropped off.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know.
We lost a lot of
I don't know about
listeners
this
at
host.
that transition.
Yeah. We transitioned to Christina because one day I was losing my voice and feeling under the weather. And then we just all decided, hey, Christina's much better at this than Shu is. So,
Thanks.
Yeah.
Just now people are used to me. It's all good.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we know you're also under the weather, Dustin. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a trooper here.
Yeah, for sure.
And you also have a background in podcasting. So you podcasted about gaming and education. You work with GAMA, which is the Game Manufacturers Association on Diversity and Inclusion. And you currently own a board game store, which is a bunch of other questions I have about in West Hills in LA, BGE's Tabletop Games and more. So lots of stuff to talk about today. Really fascinating background. But what will you have for your topic for us today, Dustin?
My topic is going to be going from content creator to brick and mortar retail store owner.
Exactly. So it's the perfect person to talk about all of this. And of course, with us is Shu, as usual. And you were the one repping Going Analog. Usual. You repped Going Analog because the LFG Con organizers were nice enough to invite us to a panel, right?
Yeah. So you were out of town that weekend. You were up in Northern California.
Not gaming at all. Horrible.
I went to LFG Con on my own, which is in Burbank, which is about an hour away from where we live in LA. And so that was my first time. So our topic's actually going to be running a convention for the first time, because that is no easy feat. And then so we wanted to just kind of talk to Dustin and talk about the experiences about running a con. But yeah, we were we had media invites to attend the con. Fancy. And we were doing a panel about content creators with a few of our other friends who've been on the show before, like Bonds and Amanda Panda, Grant Lyon, and Ruel Gaviola. So that was a cool panel. And then and had a lot of fun at that weekend.
How would you rate his performance in the panel, Dustin?
I wish I could answer that, but I unfortunately only got to catch like maybe 5-10 minutes of their panel. I was running around so much.
Okay. Tell me what you heard.
I'm sure it was great.
I'm sure it was great. It was good.
What will be our topic? Our topic is going to be about the con itself, right?
Yeah, about running a board game convention for the first time.
And all of these unexpected things that might have shown up. But we'll start off with our game highlights. So we just played a deck builder called Dark Heist, designed by Mo Poplar, I think another SoCal native and local.
Yeah.
And so, we just played this yesterday?
Yeah, I got hooked up with them because they saw that I was on a media list for LFG Con, and they were one of the exhibitors at LFG Con. So then gave us a quick demo and then gave us a review copy, so we got to play this.
Yeah.
It's a deck building game, and the subtitle on the box is the deck building game of daring heist with crooked monsters and monstrous crooks. So it's sort of this gothic horror themed, a little bit Western themed as well, like about a gang running heists. But you're going to have like crooked cops, and you're going to have various characters that build up your deck,
and ghosts and stuff too. So like you're not running this heist with just just, normal thieves. You've got some spectral thieves and other things like that.
Yeah, it's a cool theme. It's a lot of black and white art, but it's like very gothic in feel and nature. And the main kind of selling point of this game is that all your scoundrels, like all the characters in your gang, can be used for one of two purposes. So you could either turn it to the left and have one set of icons display, so you can sway other recruits. Like you could either have these to build up your deck, and then sway recruits to come join, or go perform larceny, which is a way to get gold in this game. Or you could turn the card the other way when you play it and have another set of icons show up, and this is your crime. So this is when you go on actual heists and stuff. And eventually the whole goal is to go on these heists because they give you permanent rewards for your character, like ongoing rewards and stuff like that, ongoing powers, or it's just the way to complete the game. You get a lot of points that way. And then the first person to complete 3 heists will end that game. And then you count up all those points of all the recruits you've gotten, all the heists you've gotten. And then that's that. So that's the game, Dark Heist. In a lot of the cards combo, there's like 5 different classes of characters. There's like Crooked, there's Noble, and there is, I can't remember all of them right now. Cops. Yeah, there's like 5 different categories.
Ghosts.
So they all combo well with each other. Like some ghosts might actually give you a penalty, but if you combo it with the right other ghost character, it actually works out. You can make them more powerful. Some like I forgot, it was like brute force or something like that. There's a character class where they just do a lot of damage. Brutals, yeah. And then so some are a little bit more tricky. So then it's all designed around like building your deck in ways that the cards combo well off of each other. But what did you think? Like, what was?
Yeah, it was a super fun theme. I like that it was like a supernatural heist situation, and the comboing was very exciting. If you like went after that, I think the pacing was actually quite good. We played with a friend who just got this really powerful combo that kept coming up. I don't know, real lucky here, but we were able to go on heists very quickly. So it didn't feel like I spent too long trying to build up anything. We were able to do some pretty cool actions early on, except for Shu, who did his usual spending way too long to build an engine that never pays off. So yeah.
Yeah, I lost badly. Yeah. But actually my only kind of critique, I felt like we could move to the heist part of the game. So again, either you're recruiting and doing larceny to kind of build things up, or you go on a heist, which is ultimately what you're trying to do in this game. I kind of felt like we got there really quickly because after just a few turns, everyone had a deck that was mostly capable of running through an entire heist. You
like longer deck building.
Yeah, I wanted to build that up a little bit more, but it just seemed like the last third of the game was just like, well, everyone's just going to go on heist, right? You're not deck building that much anymore because you do one or the other. And
I think it just depends on how aggressive some people are playing. We were playing with a friend who's quite aggressive in gameplay, and I was pushing it too. So I was just like, let's go. Yeah. So that was fun. I was worried with the dark color that it'd be hard to see the combos, but I think that iconography was really quite good. And so I think it's a really fun first game that I've ever played from this designer and publisher.
Yeah. I think it could use an expansion because I feel like more cards will kind of give it some variety and help balance a few things out. And also, looking forward to a second edition because this rule book definitely needed some help there.
And I think we have a volunteer to help with editing.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to volunteer for that, but it needed a little bit more polish, I think. But for a first time, it's a very solid game for a first time release. Have you played this one, Dustin?
I haven't. I do have copies of it here that need to go out on my shelf. I picked them up from Mo at LFG Con, but then I went on vacation, then I got sick. So they're going to be on our shelf probably this week. So yeah, super excited.
All right. Exclusive news here. And then what was the game you brought for us, Dustin?
So the game I was thinking of talking about was Scythe. Unfortunately, as a game store owner, I don't get to play as much games as you would think. Scythe's one that like I've played a lot and really enjoy and will like play anytime. It's a like dystopian, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. Like mechanical, like it takes place in the future.
Alternate post-World War situation or something.
Yeah, and it's like area control with worker placement a little bit and action selection, I suppose, too. So it combines a lot of strong mechanics that I enjoy. And one thing that I really like about playing games is getting around a table with a group of friends that you enjoy playing with and kind of needling each other a little bit. But it has to be the right group because, like some people really enjoy that where others can't, it's not really their style of game. So I had a good group of friends in Taiwan. We played probably for about a year straight. Almost every week we would play Scythe, and
Oh wow!
we did the Fenris campaign, all the expansions and all that.
So we should never play Scythe against Dustin, is what
I'm not very good
Quite
though.
experienced.
I played the game with George and Dave maybe about 6-7 months ago, and they creamed me. And they don't play that often. So
that's probably one of the big game that Stonemaier put out, and we were there. I think the first time it was shown at Gen Con many years ago, and we were super impressed by the polish, which now we know all Stonemaier games are super polished and packaged really well, and they had that dual layer board even back. Was it dual layered?
Yeah,
it was dual layered even back then. So all the bits would go in and not fall out, and then it's still such a smooth, fun game because I love the race for the achievements rather than let's just end after this number of rounds, So
yeah.
Though you could play that way. There's one of the expansions that gave you new endgame scenarios, and there's one that's you're going to play, I think it was 30 rounds or something like that. That's it. And then see who wins at the end of that. So there's some cool expansion material for that game too.
Cool. Yeah, we have a big box of that somewhere.
Yeah, because I think we have all content except for the Fenris campaign because we just don't have time to play a lot of campaigns. But it's I want the extra maps and I want the extra expansions. I want the airships and I want and I also probably spent too much money buying all the different coin denominations that are available for the metal coins because the aesthetic of the game is just so cool.
It was that one artist who did big mechs in the background of agrarian Russia or something like that. So it just gives you this cool vibe. So let's move on to talking about your convention for the first year. I know that you collaborated with 2 other game retailers to put this on, but how did this idea start? What made you guys come together and try this venture?
George and Day would blame me for this. We went to another local gaming convention. I don't know if either of you've had the chance to go to Strategic Con. And we really like it and we enjoyed attending and we felt we wanted to do something similar but kind of fill this vacuum that I think Southern California has, which is more of a regional convention where Strategic Con is very much local. Just a gut number, probably 80 to 90% are LA based or very close to LA based attendees. And when we set out to do LFG Con, we really wanted to create this premier experience where people felt the desire to travel to a convention. So George and Dave's been doing Strategic Con for 10 plus years now. And then George...
As a attendee or does he run it?
He's been vending for 10 plus years. I think he's been attending for 12 or 13, and George has been attending since forever. I don't know when he started attending, but it's been probably a couple decades he's been going. And so, I kind of brought up the idea to George and Day hey, do you think we should do a convention and put it together with us 3? And originally, I think Dave was oh yeah, that kind of sounds like a good idea. And then maybe a month later, Dave's let's do that convention. And so we started brainstorming and kind of looked at the numbers and we're trying to figure out if it's worth it, financially, and if it's even feasible financially. It's pretty expensive. And so we decided it was worth it. We signed the contract. And then from there, we kind of spent about 1.5 years planning.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, so what does LFG Con stand for also?
Wait, what do you think it stands for?
I don't know. We're not an explicit podcast. I don't know what the F is throwing me. Something about games.
Well, this question came up. We had a dinner that you all invited us to for the people who are in the panels and stuff. And then...
Love for gaming.
I thought it was Let's Effing Go. I just had that in my mind. I was this is a very bold name. I'm that's very cool. And
just leap to that.
So our friend Grant Lyon said, I think he said, "Oh, it obviously stands for looking for game." I'm like, "Oh, that makes a lot more sense."
Okay,
but official source, Dustin, what is it?
It stands for whatever you want it to stand for. That's kind of our mystique to it. We haven't really said what it actually stands for, but it can stand for like let's F and go, looking for group, love for gaming, love for gamers, looking for games. A lot of different names.
Okay.
All right.
That's why it was missing from the website. I get it. I like it. Okay.
And by the way, before we move on too far, do you want to give George and Day a quick, like their retail stores, so to give them a quick shout out?
Yeah. So George, he owns Game and Grounds up in Chatsworth here in Los Angeles too, and then Day owns Fire and Dice, which they are in the process of moving. They're also in the Valley and near the Northridge Mall. I don't know the name of the actual neighborhood. I should, but they just are probably going to be moving into that location within the next month.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just want to give them a shout out because it would make more sense to have all three of them on because they're equal parts of the show. But if we just can't do 5 people on the podcast, it'd be too much. So Dustin was the one I interacted with the most at LFG Con, so that he was the one I'm like, hey, do you want to come on our podcast to talk? And then Dustin didn't want to do it without the others, but I'm like, I can only invite one of you. So just a quick shout out to the others. But Dustin got to be chosen to be the victim here today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. We did the seance together.
Yeah, we did one of the games. We did, what was it, the last night? And was it a seance in the dark? What is it called? I'll look it up while we move on, and then we'll talk about this game.
Cool. So you spent like a year and a half planning for this, right? So like, did you sort of look to Strategicon or some other cons for inspiration or help, or like you've never run a convention before, I assume?
Yeah. It was it worked out really well. I think George says we're a big giant with 3 heads, and I think we all had some very distinct skill sets that we were able to bring to the table that really helped with launching the convention in the way that we did.
Nice.
For example, Day is a convention goer. He's gone to a lot of conventions. He's volunteered and staffed on a lot of conventions, so he understands that aspect of conventions and simple questions like, oh, what time should we open the convention, or how should we do the line at registration? Just small things like that. And then, of course, when I mentioned these things, George and Day contributed in other ways, but they're kind of the highlights of what they really helped with, where George, very much like a numbers person, kind of looked at
very important
budget and all those things. And where for me, I think my marketing was probably the strongest of us, and I had a bit more experience with the content creation and reaching out to media, and I've ran like Facebook ads, and we've done Google ads for our store and things like that. So I had a little bit more experience on that end. And then we had a lot of support too, like our web developer Art killed it with our website, and
I was very impressed. Yeah,
and he was there to help with like any troubleshooting all weekend too. We had Liza and Grace who were on hand to help with like guest support, and Liza helped with the panel room. So we had a lot of help, all the volunteers and staff too. We couldn't have done it with all the support we had for the convention that weekend too.
So how many people were in your sort of volunteer crew? How many people do you need to run a 3-day convention like that?
Yeah. So I think Dave would know the exact number, but if I had to guess, it'd probably be like 40 to 50 volunteers. And then staff, us 3, Grace, Liza, Art, and I don't know if I'm missing anyone. I don't think so. I hope not. Okay. But yeah, so a good team, and then some volunteers to help as well. And how we set up the volunteers is 4-hour shifts. So very much like it's a volunteer. So whatever you want to help with, we're happy to have your help.
Mm-hmm. Was it ultimately profitable for you all, or is it kind of a growing investment year?
Definitely not profitable the first year. Yeah. So, we kind of expected it. We ran the numbers for the cost of the convention, and what we pretty much nailed it on the head for how much it was going to cost the first year. And that was $100,000. So we were pretty close to that for our cost. As far as like making a profit, we definitely didn't make a profit. There's a lot of like sunk costs for the convention, like laptops, printers, things like that. So we hope to hopefully make it a profitable venture, because if we can't make it profitable, unfortunately, we can't continue to do it. So George, Day, and I have been very busy after we all went on different vacations. Like George and Day went to Magic Con, and then I went to Vegas for the World Series of Poker, and then Day just left for vacation, and then I got sick. So we've only had a chance to meet once since meet for an actual meeting once since the convention, but we kind of talked about dates and stuff. And we're still kind of like, okay, well, we got to figure out the date and figure out the location. And we're just leaning towards keeping it at the same spot, but it's still kind of up in the air as far as like what dates are available and what we can negotiate with the locations too.
Is it something you want to do once a year?
Yeah, I think once a year is definitely the route, at least for now. I don't know if you've noticed like other conventions like KublaCon or BGG or PAX, right? They expand and they do it regionally or more than once a year, and definitely not something I don't think we have the bandwidth to do more than once a year at this point.
Yeah. I will say from my point of view, and this is not just because Dustin's here in front of me, but it was, I've said this to some of our friends that were there, we were hanging out with them, like, this is really well run for a first year convention. It didn't feel like it was just a bunch of things you were all learning on the fly. I've been to other conventions that have been around longer, where we're just like, I've commiserated with other content creators who are like, yeah, we didn't know where to go for this thing. This thing wasn't clear. We were told to do this, but then there was no follow up. It's just a lot of things were not well organized. And for this one, we had a dinner, we had a panel, and then the other events that were going on, and kind of getting around, getting your badge, everything like running through the exhibitor hall. It just felt really smooth. Like nothing was in a weird space. Nothing was kind of out of place. It was all, it just was really smooth. And I was like, I had to ask, actually, I literally asked somebody, it's like, is this the first LFG Con? Because I understood that going in, but again, it was so well run that I'm like, this can't be the first time that this con existed, because that's such a big, ambitious thing to try to do. And then, yeah, it felt like this has been a thing that's been around for a year. So congrats on that.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. It means a lot because, like I said, we did put in a lot of work. So it's good to see the fruits of our labor come to fruition.
What was the final attendance for those 3 days for you?
Yeah, we had over 650 over 650 attendees.
Nice.
I did some head counts on Saturday, just walking through the whole convention. I think we had about 400 attendees at most at one time at the convention. So
awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, and then so there was I know you brought in a bunch of other special guests. So you mentioned a seance that we did, so people understand what we did. It was Alan Girding was one of your guests there from Tuesday Night Games, night with a K-N. And then he just asked a bunch of us. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do a seance?" And he wouldn't give you much context beyond that because he wanted you to experience.
We were trying to contact his grandmother.
Yeah, so I asked him afterwards. The working title right now is called Seance in the Dark, and then it's like a live person. He said it felt like a seance. We had a darkened room with some candles, and the idea was it's sort of like a 20-question style setup, but a team-based one where you will ask some information, someone will get the answer, and you have to pass that answer along to another person by tapping them on the shoulder. And how you tap them, what direction, where you tap them, it's all appropriate. It's all above board. We'll kind of pass on yes, no, irrelevant, etc. So it's also a game of telephone to make sure that everyone's getting the same information from this. And then so it's a thing that they're working on. They're trying to figure out how this could be a retail product, but it's just an interesting experience. And then of course I got to play a bunch of other games with friends. I ended up, I think, hanging out the whole time with Chris Grant, and we just take turns teaching each other games with other people that we would kind of pull into our circle. So, but yeah, it was a fun, relaxing weekend, and then looking forward to next year's.
I want to give a shout out to Grant too. Are you going to his comedy show tonight by any chance?
Yes,
Oh, you going?
definitely.
Oh yeah. We'll see you there then.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm feeling okay and up for it. But
true.
planning on
True,
going.
true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to that to support him. I mean, this would have happened in the past by the time everyone hears or sees
in the future
this.
Now, yes.
Yeah, but this is a Sunday night. Yeah, but we'll be going tonight to see. So Grant is he's been on the show before. He's a content creator, does a lot of great TikTok videos, but he also is a comedian. And then he's kind of mixing the two worlds tonight because he's going to run a giant full audience game of Green Team Wins, which is a big, hey, who is getting the most, who's thinking alike and trying to get the same people together for answers.
And of course, we definitely want to talk about how you switched from being a podcaster and, teaching gaming and stuff into opening a real brick and mortar board game store, which I think for some people is also like a dream. How did you make it into reality?
For sure, yeah. If my wife's listening, she'll have heard this story like 100 times now. But for anyone that hasn't heard it, I'm happy to share. When we got married, we moved to Taiwan, and I wanted to start a business when I moved abroad. And originally, I started a tutoring business, and it was doing pretty well, and it was really amazing for how it propelled my teaching career. However, I wasn't super passionate about it, so I started to think of other ideas, and I realized I use a lot of tabletop games in my teaching, so I decided to start a podcast. And the podcast, I teamed up with a former classmate. We went to grad school together, and he was teaching at a school in Taiwan as well. And we started a podcast called Board Gaming with English. So it was all about, if you were an English language learner, you can tune into an episode, and listening to the episode, it'd be titled like Code Names, for example. And Code Names is a team-based word game. And the episode would go over the grammar structures that you would need to play the game. So like the sentences, it would go over vocabulary, and it would go over the rules. And we would stylize it like a skit. So it was kind of hopefully a little entertaining to listen to as well. But eventually we learned that a lot of non-English teachers were listening to our show or to the podcast and curious about like general education, whether that's like science-based games, math-based games, or other ideas for game-based learning and education. So we changed the title to Board Gaming with Education. And from there, I did a lot of an event-based business in Taiwan, like tutoring with games, running camps and things like that. And when we moved back to the States, I wanted to do something similar where we wanted to run a summer camp and some after-school programming with tabletop games. But we all know the pandemic hit, so you can't do events if there's a pandemic. So we shifted our focus into an online store model, and essentially I carried the first two publishers we carried were Genius Games and Looney Labs. Looney Labs does games like Flux, very familiar game style like Uno, draw a card, play a card style game, and then Genius Games are all like games. All science-based games. So I also worked with Roger, who is a retired science teacher, and he helped with developing some lesson plans and at-home learning resources for our games, as well as I helped with some other, he did the science stuff and I did the non-science games. And so if you purchase a game through our website, you receive these resources complimentary. So if you picked up a game from Genius Games, you would get these lesson plans and at-home learning resources for it. Yeah,
Christina's a tutor as well, so this is very much her world.
So
awesome. So, well, if you need any of the resources at this point, I'm just giving them away for free. So if anybody just reaches out, we have about like 20 to 25 games or resources for games. Like Wingspan is another one. Trying to think of what else. It's been a while since I've
Yeah, it was a
looked
while
at what
back.
we have.
A more recent game for Genius Games specifically, like my best marriage, I think, of science and board gaming is their genotype. I feel like it's so fantastic. So anyway.
That's
You
I
have to
think
tell
I played
people
that
about
once. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about genetics and sort of the original pea plant experiments that Gregor Mendel did, and you like try to get these certain traits so that you can get the most points in your pea plants. But it's a fantastic dice drafting game in itself, also. So really great game.
It's a little bit of push your luck in that game too, right? If I remember, I remember enjoying it for some aspect of the
Yeah.
worker placement.
Yeah, it's surprisingly tight in some places too. So yeah, it's a really great game. Love it.
And then how did you transition then? You said you initially were online, and then how did you become a brick and mortar store?
Yeah, so doing the game-based model, I realized was a little too niche, and it required a lot more than it's a new concept to people, right? Using tabletop games for learning. So that required, I think, a bit more marketing and push to get people to understand what we're trying to sell.
Yeah.
So we decided to open up the online store to more of a brick and mortar traditional model where we carried all games and TCGs a little bit, role playing games, and really focused on just the positive aspects of tabletop gaming, whether that's like social interaction, collaboration, still game based learning. And from there, I had the idea that the pandemic probably wouldn't be around forever, right? We'd eventually be able to open a store. So how can we position ourselves to do that, and then bring along this idea of after school programs and summer camps into our brick and mortar model? So we started doing pop-ups. So our very first pop-up was at a coffee shop just with a table, and we had about 20, 30 different products. And then we slowly expanded to more pop-ups, and then eventually we did a kiosk. So if you've ever been to a mall and you'll walk past the kiosks that sell the toys and stuff, we did one of those for the holiday season 4 holiday seasons ago. And then all the revenue we made from that model we used to open the brick and mortar store, and we've just passed our 3rd year.
Congrats! That's so exciting.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is it a tough business? As tough as it sounds, because I'm like, obviously you have to deal with like the online retailers, like the giant ones, and also Amazon, of course. Like, how do you stay competitive? Is it with these programs, or are there other things that you do?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's all sorts of things that I think local game stores do and can do to position themselves to remain competitive. And the big idea of the 3rd place is one of them, right? You have the space and community aspect of it. For us, I honestly don't think I would be around as a store if we didn't offer our youth programming. It was a good opportunity for me when I first started, where I could use my sweat equity to run programming and not pay myself, and then use that capital to reinvest in the business. And if I didn't have those nets of bringing in extra capital, I honestly don't know if I would still be a store. So I do know it's super challenging. Like this year is the first year I've been able to pay myself consistently, and by paying myself, it's like $500 a week. It's nothing crazy. So I'm hoping next year is where we can finally, for LA, I wouldn't say it's a medium income, but at least maybe a US based median salary starting hopefully next year. So it does take some time, and talking to or hearing like chatter from other game store owners, a lot of the idea is like the only reason game stores are successful are because they're still around. They figured out a way to continue to make it work, because there are a lot of like road bumps and hiccups and things that come up, like you mentioned, like online retail. But then there's a lot of like waves you can ride. Like right now, the TCG market's very hot, so we're kind of benefiting from the hotness of that market and the revenue, and being able to bring in product and sell product pretty quickly.
Very cool.
Are there certain well, I guess when you're hiring first, because your youth programs are such a big thing now, like, is that something you look for in your employees also? Because that's like sort of your niche and a specialty. Like they're good with kids and they can run programs and things like that too.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's one of the questions I ask in our interview process is like, how do you handle working with younger players? And then just as another analogy, we do our Dungeons and Dragons summer camps. And with that, like, I am more concerned about their experience working with youth versus their experience playing or running Dungeons and Dragons games.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's definitely more important for that.
Cool. That's interesting because like I love how you found something that you have that experience with and you can like marry that and make that hopefully even more successful year to year, right? Cool, because it's a tough business otherwise. But yeah, we hope to visit. I mean, I love going to a local game store in general. Like that's something that you're not going to have that experience with. I'm like when shopping online and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess one thing that I've found really funny is like we transitioned as gamers when we would go to a game store and realize that the person working there couldn't give us any recommendations we didn't already know anymore. That was like a turning point in our life as like board game content creators and stuff. But, like what right now is your big hot thing you like to recommend if people are coming into your store?
Ooh, that's a tough one. We keep a section, our hot and new section, so I usually look to there. But I don't know if I have a one thing. We usually do like I don't know what you would call it, but like to understand what type of experience the guest is looking for, and kind of ask some questions about like player counts, ages, their experience level, and things like that. Yeah, because it's tough. I don't know. I guess if you two came into our store, I would probably recommend a hot new game that maybe just came out. I'd have to look over there. Not So Neighborly, they were at LFG Con. That's one that we kind of recommend quite a bit recently because it's a great family style game, easy to get into. We kind of try to push a little bit of the TCGs at this point now too, because there's some great like Lorcana, a great starter set. They have a co-op based game too. So yeah.
Okay. And Not So Neighborly, I haven't heard of. So that was a good rec. There you go.
We'll have to check that out.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we hope everybody enjoyed our show today. Thanks so much, Dustin, for joining us. Where can people follow you and your ventures?
Yeah, so I'm at BGE Tabletop. You can go to bgetabletop.com or at BGE Tabletop. And then LFG Con, you can go at LFG Convention or LFG Con at most social media. And then the website is lfg-con.com.
Got it. Perfect. And we will put the links in our show notes. And of course, many thanks to our awesome editor, Mike Zivkin. And now we can stop listening and go play a game. Bye.
Bye.